This is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
Welcome into another edition of the Patriots Drive Podcast. Patriots fall to 10-7 on the year. Again, in Miami, 33-24. To 0-2 on the year against the Dolphins. Kind of a tough year. We knew playing in Miami is never easy, especially late in the season, and the Pats had their struggles early, kind of mounted a comeback late, but fell short yet again. So just kind of one of those things. It's been frustrating, ups and downs this year. Started off the season really poorly. Middle of the year, played really well. It seemed like they were hitting their stride at the right time, and now three out of their last four games have been some of the ugliest games they played in a long time this season and going back to last year. So it's tough. I mean, it's exciting that this team's in the playoffs. They got a shot. They're in the dance, and you never know what can happen. So if they turn things around, they figure some stuff out, maybe they got a shot to make some noise. But I think we have a little bit of a difference of opinion in this aspect. But I just think this team has so many things they need to clean up, and it needs to be cleaned up so quickly that I don't think they have a shot to make much noise in the playoffs. I mean, we'll hit on a bunch of that stuff as we get into the episode, but there's so many things that this team has done wrong, and the mistakes that they've made and how poorly they played. That's just not Patriots football. We call them uncharacteristic mistakes, penalties, just all that different stuff. But that hasn't been uncharacteristic for this football team these past 3-4 weeks. It's what this team has been and how they've been playing. So it's a frustrating day, even though the game, well, I mean, we rested Hightower and Kyle Duggar just to make sure they're healthy for the playoffs. It's still not an excuse. You wanted to see this team come out, have some fight, start fast, and finish the season strong going into the playoffs. But I'm here with my co-host, Jace Campbell. How's it going, Jace?
Well, we get one more week at least. I mean, that's if you want to be a glass half full type of guy. We're at least playing next week, whether it's in Cincinnati or Buffalo. The Patriots are going to be playing, and you said it. It's playoff football. It's Bill Belichick. It's the New England Patriots. Anything can happen. No one thought Jacksonville was going to beat Indianapolis today. No one thought Houston would have a close game against the Titans today. Like, it's the NFL. Lots of things can happen, and yes, there needs to be a miraculous turnaround for this team to make a deep playoff run. But I mean, winning one game in the playoffs, I don't think is something that Patriots fans, should just be writing ship on. I think that with this team is playing like they're capable of, and they're not beating themselves, they're a hard team to beat for anyone. But when they're playing like they have the last 3 or 4 weeks and they can't get off the field, uncharacteristic penalties, like you said, not winning the turnover margin, I mean, pretty much they're one of the only teams that I think in the NFL that can beat them. And that's like what I'm saying is that when they beat themselves, I think of maybe the Bucks if they're playing great, the Bills probably, and still then the Chiefs and stuff. And those teams, there's probably 3 or 4 teams that beat the Patriots when they're playing their best football. And I think that the Patriots are their own worst nightmare, as we've seen in the last couple of weeks of the season right here, where they're just constantly killing themselves. And it's so frustrating because we saw what they can do during that 7-game win streak, and it's been nothing like that. And what's frustrating is that's coming after a bye week. We go on a 7-game win streak, we come off a bye week, and we go 1-3 to end the season. And now going into the playoffs as, possibly a 6 seed, hopefully the 5 seed to go to Cincinnati. And you're looking at, you got swept by the Dolphins. I mean, there's so many things in this season that are uncharacteristic of the Patriots, getting swept by the Dolphins, losing back-to-back home games against the Bills in back-to-back seasons. Like, there's just all these things that we didn't think would happen early in the season that are now happening. And you're just hoping that they can snap out of it come playoff time. And it's looking slimmer and slimmer, every game.
Yeah, we'll touch on this real quick, and then we'll continue what we're talking about. For me personally, who I would rather play, Bengals or the Bills? I think we agree on this. I would rather play the Bengals just because I honestly don't love both matchups. I think that Cincy's offense is going to be tough to stop, especially if our defense continues to play the way that they've played in some recent stretches, like against the run and stuff like that. Joe Mixon's a stud. They got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. They got a ton of really talented playmakers on the team, and Joe Burrow has been really, really great this year. I mean, he's probably in the top 5 in MVP odds right now, I believe. And comeback player of the year, he'll probably win that if Dak doesn't. He's talented. So this Bengals team is playing really good football. I think we have a better shot against their defense than against the Bills defense. It's tough when a team knows you so well. They know a lot of the tendencies you have and what you're going to do. This is a team in the Bengals that we're less familiar with. I'd also rather lose to the Bengals than the Bills. I'd rather beat the Bills than the Bengals. It'd feel a lot better to end the Bills season than the Bengals. But either game, it's going to be tough. Either game, I honestly don't love our chances. We just haven't been playing good enough football, and those two teams are hitting their stride right now.
Yeah, and when you're looking at the offensive side of things, because our defense hasn't been playing well the last couple of weeks, is the Bengals are the more explosive offense, like Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon. I mean, they T. Higgins, like you said, Joe Burrow, like they have guys all around, and those matchups scare me even more than it did even 4 weeks ago. Seeing these guys hit stride, Joe Burrow picking up his game, and seeing how our rush defense has been the last 2-3 weeks. So yeah, I think that it's more. The offense for the Bengals is more explosive, and I think that we might struggle with them more, and they're unfamiliar. We haven't seen them at all this year. We've seen Buffalo twice. We kind of know what we're getting. We've been up to Buffalo. We've won in Buffalo. Like we've done those things. Now, with that being said, I still want to play Cincinnati over Buffalo because I think that we can out physical them on offense. I think that we can get the run game going, and we can, kind of wear them down if we keep the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands. I don't think he's a threat rushing the ball like Josh Allen is, scrambling, although he can do it. I don't think that he's as big of a threat. He's definitely probably going to want to throw it out 5 wide more with the receivers and weapons he has. But I'd feel more comfortable going up to Cincinnati and playing Cincinnati with the style they play and the style we play. It's kind of polar opposites when you think about it. And the two things that transfer over to playoff football is a good running game and a defense. And we haven't seen a good defense in the last couple of weeks. But our running game, if we can get that going, that will help tremendously. So I would say Cincinnati also.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. At least we're in the postseason. That's true. I mean, we're in the dance. Like we said, you never know what can happen. But this is a great point right here. This is pretty much exactly what I said in my post at the end of the game today. 3 out of the last 4 games we played the exact same way. Play like crap, get in a hole early, come back to make it a 1-score game, then the defense can't make a play. It's becoming a trend. Exactly. And that's what's frustrating is early in the season, it was the same thing. We had a chance against Miami. Defense couldn't make a stop. They ended the game. The same thing here. We have a chance in the end and the defense can't make a stop. And it's just frustrating. It's not only just in key situations like that, but the whole game, the whole trend of these games is you watch the game early on and it's you would think that the Patriots season is over and they have nothing to play for. And you would think the Dolphins are fighting for the 1 seed. Like the way they're playing, the energy that they were playing with, the Dolphins defense, they were jumping all over the field, making plays, playing with energy. And the Patriots are just slowly walking out on the field. Like they look like they have no life in them at the beginning of the game. And it takes them being down 3 scores for them to wake up. And it's ridiculous. It's like you have a chance to at the beginning of the game, we still had a chance to be the number 3 seed in the AFC, a chance to win the division if the Jets somehow upset the Bills. And they just played like crap. You just come out flat, dig yourself into a hole, and you got to come back. It's not easy to win games down 3 possessions. It's just, you can't do it. You can't keep shooting yourself in the foot like this and trying to come back from it. It's not a good recipe to win games, especially this team. This isn't how this team plays football. When they play their best, they get a lead, they play from ahead, they combine the run game with the play action pass, and they create problems for defenses. And then their defense rushes the passer, pins their ears back, and their secondary eats. That's how this team wants to play. When the other team has control of the ball, control the lead, they can run the football on our defense and put more pressure on our offense to make more explosive plays and not be able to hand the ball off as much. It really ruins our entire game plan. And it's just really frustrating to see this team continue to come out flat on their feet. I don't know how you fix it. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's just the locker room in general. I don't know who needs to make the change to say, hey, let's pick it up, and hey, we need to start fast. But it's clearly a point of emphasis with the coaches, with the locker room, with everybody, and it just hasn't happened.
Yeah, I think it shows too, that this is still a young football team. Mac Jones, he's played 6 more games than what he's used to in any college high school season. We have a bunch of new guys on big contracts that aren't used to the Patriot way. And we say these uncharacteristic mistakes for the Patriots, but these aren't uncharacteristic mistakes for these guys that are coming into the new system. And yeah, I mean, they're 18 games, they're 17 games in, 18 weeks into being with the Patriots. And you would like to see that work itself out. But I mean, it's still a young thing. And I was listening to a Patriots post-game show today before we hopped on, and they were saying how, this is like year 1 of a 3-year rebuild. I agree and I disagree in that. But if you think of it that way, yeah, this is a whole new team pretty much than what it was last year. And you have to get used to the Patriot way. You have to get used to Bill Belichick's coaching style. You have to get used to, everything, playing in the cold. If you're from LA, like Hunter Henry is, Mac Jones never played in the cold either. There's a lot of new guys in a new system, and it takes a minute to get used to it. So yeah, it's frustrating because that 7-game win streak was, the best thing that happened to us. And then all of a sudden now it's the worst thing because I think that it got our expectations a little bit too high for this Patriots team, but it showed us what we are capable of. And when we're not playing at that, I think Roondog said is, we're kind of spoiled, right? We had this 7-game win streak, and the media is talking about us again, how we're back. We're us and the Bucks. It's the most likely Super Bowl outcome. And, and then since the bye week, we've just pretty much shit the bed and hasn't really been close. And we'll be lucky to get out of the first round of the playoffs now, out of wild card weekend. So it was great to see him go on that 7-game win streak. But then when you follow it up, losing your last 3 of your 4 games, that's never, the way you want to go into the playoffs.
Yeah, you want to be playing your best ball, and that's what we thought was going on. We said, "Oh my God, this is perfect! 7-game win streak. We got the bye week. We're gonna rest up, finish the season strong, get a great seed, win the AFC East." And I mean, we got our hopes up because this team was playing so well. But it also shows you what this team is capable of doing when they play well and they play how they want to play. When this team starts fast and they build any sort of lead, it's perfect. It's how they want to play. But when you don't play the brand of football that you want to play and you start out so slow and you get down 2-3 possessions, it's impossible. And this team it's just tough. It's not how they want to play. They're not going to beat any teams in the playoffs if they get down 14. If they get down 2 scores, 3 scores in a playoff game, it's over. I mean, that's it. The season's done. And it's as simple as that. They just can't play this brand of football. And you've seen them consistently shoot themselves in the foot. We know how well they can play. And that's why, yes, we did get our hopes up. Yes, we are spoiled as Pats fans, but it's like, if this team plays to their capability in the playoffs, I still believe they can beat any team in the NFL, but they are not playing anywhere near their potential. And with that, I would put my money on any other team over the Patriots right now, which is really sad to say. I mean, I think the only team that I would bet money on us to beat right now in the AFC is the Steelers if they make it as a 7 seed, and either the Raiders or Chargers. But other than that, any of the division winners, I don't think we have a chance at playing anywhere near this level of football that we're playing right now. I think if we clean things up, penalties, shooting ourselves in the foot, turnovers, those simple things, if we can clean that up and start fast, I think we can beat anybody but it's the trend we're seeing right now. 3 out of the last 4 weeks, we played horrible. And that's just kind of how it is right now.
Yeah. You want to be playing your best football as you go into the playoffs. And that's something that the Patriots have been known for when Brady was here. And Last year they finished horrible. They didn't make the playoffs. This year they're going to make the playoffs, but they've lost 3 of their last 4. And now all of a sudden you're saying, well, did we peak too early? Did we peak in that 7-game win streak? And now we know we're running out of gas, and guys are getting tired, and guys are, figuring us out, the other teams. And so it is frustrating. I think the biggest loss today, obviously losing to Miami sucks. I think the biggest loss today is if we have some injuries, if Barmore can't go, if Isaiah Wynn keeps getting out, if some of those injuries for the playoffs, though, that might be a bigger loss than the actual loss itself, because we're in the playoffs no matter what. And like you said, if we're playing our best football, I'm taking us to beat any team also, but we haven't been playing like that. And now it becomes harder if you have to, move Justin Herron to left tackle, or Michael Owenu, and now you can't put in an extra tackle for power run football. You have to play another down the line defensive tackle to replace Barmore. Like, I think the injuries today might be a bigger loss if some of these guys can't go. And that sucks to say, because you never want to lose to the AFC East rival, in Miami into the season. You never want to see those, but some of these injuries that we suffer today are going to make it tougher to overcome the problems we're having on the field also, if they can't go next week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the biggest, aside from the fact this team just played like crap today and just shot ourselves in the foot, and we saw more of a trend. I had hope that if we played our brand of football and we won this game by a score or 2, I would have had a lot more confidence heading into the playoffs, saying, okay, that 2-game stretch was just a little fluke. They kind of figured it out and they're back on track, but it's not. It's they played the Jaguars last week, and that seems to be the fluke. You know what I mean? It's the Jags, and whenever they played a quality opponent, this past month, it hasn't gone well for them. They've just played horrible, and it's not even the quality opponent beating them, like we've talked about. It's them beating themselves. The Patriots are the best team at beating themselves and not getting beat by the opponent. That's just how they played this year. And when they stop beating themselves, we see these comebacks. We see them start to have a chance in the fourth quarter, but it's too little too late. And you can't start playing an NFL game with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter and expect to win any games. It can't happen. So Barmore's a big one. It sounds like Mike Reese said it looks like he's going to be out for the playoffs, and it could be something that affects his offseason a little bit, which is really tough to see. He was in a significant amount of pain. He was carted out on a stretcher, and then he came out of the x-ray room still. He was very emotional, and still being carted out on the stretcher, still couldn't put any weight on that leg. It's awful to see. Barmore is such a big part of this team, such a big part of this pass rush, and losing him is a huge loss, and it's really unfortunate. I'm not really sure who we're going to replace him with on that interior as a pass rusher. He's been tremendous. I think he's 10th in the NFL as a defensive tackle with pressures and interior pressures on the quarterback, and so that's a huge loss. Isaiah Wynn, obviously, he hasn't been playing his best football, but anytime you lose a starter on the offensive line, that's tough. We don't know how significant his injury is. He was questionable to return most of the game, and then they ruled him out. So maybe that's precaution for the playoffs. I'm not quite sure what that is, but there's a lot more faith in Isaiah Wynn coming back than Christian Barmore. It seems like his season is absolutely over, and that's honestly a huge loss.
Yeah, massive loss, because we haven't been generating much pressure the last 3 weeks. Judon has literally laid an egg. Yeah, Sour Milk says it here. Judon hasn't been at his best the last few weeks. He hasn't had a sack since the bye week. Like, hasn't been at his best. Played very limited snaps last week. This week, I saw him make one good play in the run, maybe a second one late in the game. But to me, it seems like his energy's been down low. I don't know if COVID kind of took it out of him, if he's still battling stuff like that. But yeah, that's a big loss, the Barmore one right there. If Isaiah Wynn's out, I'd like to just see him move Michael Owenu or Trent Brown to that tackle and then start the other one opposite. I'm done with seeing Justin Herron. He gave up a huge sack today that he got blown by on that fumble. And, that was obviously Mac's fault right there on the fumble, getting out a little too early, not grabbing the ball. But his guys behind him, that's why he's able to jump on the ball so quickly. We can't recover that. But the frustrating thing about the NFL right here is you look at it, our last 3 losses come to the Colts, the Bills, the Dolphins. Well, who are the Jaguars' 3 wins this year? The Colts, the Bills, and the Dolphins. And who did we just dominate last week? The Jaguars. So, like you said, you got to give props to these teams because they come in and they want to beat New England because of the reputation New England has. And, they've been talked about early in the season or, midway through the season, they were talked about high. So New England had a target on their back. But when New England's playing their best ball, I agree. I don't believe that anyone can beat this team when they're playing their best football. I mean, I know Jacksonville's horrible. I mean, I'm not crediting them anything, but when you go out and you beat the Colts today, who's fighting for a playoff spot, and you beat them 26-11, and you hold Jonathan Taylor to the numbers that they did. You beat the Bills 9-6, and then you beat the Dolphins 23-20. Like, these are games that we should have won. And then you look at it and you look at some of the games we lost early too. This team could easily have 12 wins if they would just pull their head out of their asses sometimes and knock it down in a hole, or be able to get out of drives, or not have dumb penalties. Like you said it perfectly. We've said it, all along, is there's these little mistakes that's holding this team back. And that's why I don't think they're going to get over the hump, to make a big run in the playoffs. Maybe one playoff win, but other than that, I don't see it.
I think it's more likely that we are one and done than we win a game, to be honest, which stinks to say. And I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be Debbie Downer. But at this point, I think we need to be a little bit more realistic with, hey, it's great to have faith and confidence in your team. But at the end of the day, you also need to see, okay, we have a 17, 18 game sample size of what this team has been. And the past month, when it really counts, December, January football is when you need to be at your best. And they've been horrible. I mean, this team is not playing anything like a playoff team. If they played like this the entire year, they would not be a playoff team. And it's tough. You know what the team can do. You know it has the veteran leadership. You know it's got the talent on defense. We're not generating any pressure. We're not stopping anything in the run game. I mean, the Dolphins ran for 195 yards. We let Duke Johnson run for 117 yards, average almost 5 a carry with a touchdown. The defensive line also has had 0 contain on quarterbacks ever since that Josh Allen game. It's just ridiculous. I mean, some of the biggest plays of the game was Tua running with his legs, getting a first down on 3rd down. It's just key plays, key situations, not playing fundamentally sound football, coaching, playing, everything needs to be better. And it's been awful. And I don't know what changed. I don't know what happened. This team was doing great, containing quarterbacks, putting pressure on them, forcing them into bad throws, stopping the run. That was like a staple of what this team wanted to improve on this year. And it's just all this money in the offseason is not looking like it's paying off right this second. I'm not saying they shouldn't have paid these guys. I think we have a bunch of great players. I think they just need to perform better because we have the horses. They just aren't playing the brand of football that they've been able to play at.
Yeah, I really think the only contract that hasn't paid off has obviously been Jonnu Smith. I even think that the Nelson Aguilar one, his production hasn't been there, but we saw the impact he has on the field. I think that this is still, like we said, year one of a 3, maybe 4-year rebuild. Why Mac's still on his rookie contract? I think today it was more evident than ever that we need. I haven't thought this all season, but I think we need a top dog receiver, and whether we go out and we draft a guy like John Mechie who has chemistry with Mac Jones, or we go sign someone. I don't think we go sign someone big, but I think that Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar, Jacoby Myers, these guys are great complementary pieces. But for a guy like Mac Jones, you need a true receiver one out there. And I don't know how they go acquire that, but I think that that's a need. I think that getting younger on the defense is a need. We saw today the rushing defense was horrible. We have a promising young piece in Barmore. Judon's been a great signing. I thought Godchow has been playing great this year too. He's on contract for a couple more years. Uche, hopefully he can, come out and, continue to get better and, not just have this hype in the training camp stage and actually perform. I think we have good young guys. I think we need to get younger at the linebacker position, locking up JC Jackson and making him, whether it's a franchise tag or signing him. I think that's priority number 1, given our money to draft another corner too, because when you look at who's out there today, because Sean Wade's not out there, Jonathan Jones is hurt, a couple other guys are missing, Kyle Duggar, like our secondary gets very thin very easily. And so we need to go out and draft or sign a couple more guys for the depth pieces. And I really think that this defense, it probably in the back half, whether McCourty's gone, whatever happens with JC Jackson and then the linebackers, this could be a pretty different looking defense come next year, because I think they do need to make a lot of things, because I think a lot of changes. I think this is like a 2019 defense that the Patriots and us fans are still trying to grasp onto and say, oh, the boogeyman, they're still great. Yeah, they're playing good football, but they're not playing championship level football, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I need to address this comment as well, because it's something that needs to be talked about. It annoys me when we shoot ourselves in the foot all game long and then people blame the refs for a loss. Refs should never be blamed for a loss unless it's something like the Saints PI call. So, yeah, I agree and I disagree at the same time a little bit. Yes, the refs are not the reason the Patriots lost this football game. They shot themselves in the foot. They turned the ball over multiple times. They had key penalties in key situations. They didn't make plays when they had opportunities. That's why they lost this football game. But you also need to acknowledge the fact that the officials made this game much harder for the Patriots to win in general. I mean, that call was absolutely horrendous. I haven't seen a call that poor in quite some time against their punter. I mean, Brandon Bolden barely touched his shoulder pad with his shoulder, and they called him for hitting him to the helmet when he was sliding. And I mean, it was just ridiculous. They huddle up as a group and conference together, talk about it, and say, "Oh yeah, that's still a flag." It's like, what's the point of huddling up as an officiating crew and talking about a play if none of you are going to get the correct call? I mean, it was blatantly obvious. Look at the jumbotron, look at the scoreboard, whatever it is that they show the replay on in Miami. Just look up and see, oh my God, yeah, he didn't even touch his head like remotely, not even close. That was ridiculous. That gave him 3 points. You think about it towards the end of the game when the Patriots were down 27-24, that would have been a 24-24 ball game. That would have been tied. No, it's not the officials' fault that they lost, but a lot of big plays, a lot of big penalties changed the game, and Miami got bailed out on some big third downs. We got screwed over on a couple plays. Kendrick Bourne gets absolutely mashed to the head, helmet to helmet by Javon Holland late in that football game. They don't call it. They don't do anything about that, but they call it when the punter his jersey barely got touched by Brandon Bolden's shoulder, and they call it a 15-yard penalty. That gives Miami 3 points, and it possibly could have been 7 if the defense didn't stop in the red zone. So it's just, the officials this year have been horrible. Seems like once every game we're getting screwed over by a huge call on a third down that gives the other team a new opportunity to make another play or put more points up on the board, and it always comes at the worst time. So it's frustrating. It's not that the officials are the reason we're losing football games, because they're not, but they're certainly not making it easier.
Yeah, and Xavier Howard makes a great play, and Mac doesn't read the coverage. He runs into the end zone. He turns around, grabs his crotch, Marshawn Lynch style, and there's no taunting flag on that. Like, if you're going to throw taunting flags in every other game for the dumb stuff that they've done, which I think taunting is the dumbest penalty, but it's what we talked about a couple weeks ago. It's the consistency with these flags. It's like half the time it's a flag, half the time it's not. So you either got to make it where it's horrible and every time's a flag, or you got to say, okay, well, we're going to let it go and we're going to, make the game fun and let them play and, still have player safety, but, not be so flag happy and be throwing them every time. So I agree. It's the consistency for me that's just absolutely atrocious and annoying. It's been horrible. I can't believe that they called that one. I thought they were going to call back Brandon Bolden's second touchdown for OPI on Hunter Henry, and unfortunately the Patriots are committing these, if it's ever in question,
they're making some dumb mistakes for sure.
Yeah, you're making dumb mistakes in crucial times. And if it's ever in question, like these refs, I get it. It's hard to be an official, but when you're getting paid as much money as they are, they're pretty much getting paid to make like 50-50 calls and be pretty bad at their job. Like any other person in the working field that's 50-50 on their job is probably fired. And, there's no, way to hold these officials accountable. You're not seeing them get fined like publicly, where like there's got to be some way where these officials can be held accountable for bad missed calls like that, where they can't just say, "Oh, I missed it," but who cares? Like, if you want change in anything, in anything in the world, in sports, and whatever you want, you gotta make them punishable. You gotta make it hurt for some people so that they don't just say, "Oh, well, I made a mistake, but I got no consequences, so I'll just do it again." Like, you gotta make it so they remember the mistake and they don't do it again. That's anything in the world. So it's frustrating. It's been in multiple games too. The one Thanksgiving game had like 26 combined penalties for both teams, like 13 and 12 for, I think it was the Raiders, Cowboys, like just atrocious officiating. And no one wants to watch a game like that. So, yeah, I agree. It hasn't been, New England's strong suit, not being penalized, but there have been some calls that have just gone against them that you look back on and you're like, gosh, I mean, that's a 50-50 call right there. And most of the times it's not favoring the Patriots. So.
And I understand the 50-50 calls because it is hard. It's an impossible job to be an official and get every call right when you see everything in such high speed. I mean, but when you got the blatantly obvious ones right in front of your face, I mean, the official was standing right fucking there and he still got it wrong. It's like, dude, you're 2 feet from this play happening, and you're still calling it a hit to the head on the punter. It's like, oh my God, like you got to get those right. They're so obvious. You're right. There's got to be some system that punishes these officials for making horrible, blatantly obvious calls. Because if you can't make a call that's obvious like that, how in the hell are you going to make any of the 50-50 calls correctly? It's just, you can't. If you can't get the easy ones right, you're damn for sure not going to get the hard ones right. So they gotta hold these officials accountable. It's been horrendous. These guys make whatever call they want, and there's nobody's held accountable for it. It doesn't matter. The facts are they're impacting games. They're impacting players, coaches' jobs, players' jobs, people's paychecks, people's putting food on their tables. I mean, one play, one flag can change the entire game and change an entire season for a team. That's just the fact of the matter. And when you get these blatantly obvious ones, these super easy ones, the layups, you got to get them. It's so easy, and they're right in front of you. And it's just the helmet ones have been so inconsistent. I mean, Kendrick Bourne has got mashed in the head 14 times the past few weeks, and it hasn't got called a single time. That's why Aguilar was out with a concussion for 2 games plus, because he got hit to the head. Nobody called it. Bourne got hit to the head that same game. Jacoby Myers. So many of our guys are getting hit to the head, and they're not calling anything. But they call that on Brandon Bolden to the punter when he's giving himself up, and Brandon Bolden barely touched him. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's so frustrating. So one other thing is Judon was getting held. That's an every game thing. But you also look at some of the key plays in this football game, some of the key third downs. Almost every one, either Judon or Barmore is getting held. Judon around the neck. Barmore got dragged to the ground from behind 2 or 3 times on key plays that I could remember. And it's just, I mean, it's like, what are you looking at? Where I don't know where these officials are watching, but it's frustrating when we get none of the calls. It seems like everything's going their way. All the 50-50 calls, even the blatantly obvious calls, they're going their way instead. And it's just, it just seems like we never end up getting any of those. And so many people say, oh my God, the Patriots, they get every flag called. It's just absolute horseshit. That just isn't true. I mean, maybe back in the day, we used to get some favorable calls that people, but it just doesn't happen. I mean, you look at the past few years with some of the Chiefs ones, we've got screwed over multiple times against the Chiefs. And just this whole season, we've had multiple key occasions where the officials are making just poor calls and just not calling the correct call. And I agree here. There needs to be refs up in the box to review close calls like the Brandon Bolden flag. That one is blatantly obvious. If somebody is up in the box, they say, hey, guys, this is not a flag. I mean, maybe it looked like a flag in real time, but we're looking at it here in slow motion. He didn't even fucking touch him. I mean, he barely touched him. So this doesn't need to be a flag. Pick it up. This is a game-changing play. The Patriots would have had the ball at the 43-yard line, 43 yards away from a touchdown. And instead, the Dolphins drive down, get a field goal, and we get the ball at the 20-yard line. So it changes the whole game. We were already down 14-0 at that point. That would have been a huge momentum swing. And it's frustrating seeing these continue to mount up against the Patriots.
Yeah. But when you look at the stats, like I'm just sitting here looking at the stats, like obviously we got killed in the rushing department. 195, they're averaging like 89 yards on the season. They're second to last in the whole NFL yards per game. But total yards right here, I mean, we outgain them 379 to 298. We are 3 for 4 in the red zone. We are 1 for 4 game 1 in New England. Really, and I hate to say it, but the Mac Jones interception, like going down 14-0 right off the bat like that, and them not even having the ball twice, like they go down, they take a big chunk of the time off the clock, they score pretty much at will, and then Mac Jones comes out, pick 6. Like, I don't want to say it was out of reach right there because I think New England battled back, but that is such a big hole to dig yourself out of. And you take away, obviously, the last touchdown by the...
It was like that block punt against the Colts.
Yeah,
just
you know,
huge
you
momentum
go down
killer.
so early. Yeah, and you get a touchdown from a defense or the special teams. It's so hard to overcome, and that's what we've seen. You know, against the Colts, against the Dolphins, right here. It's been so hard to overcome. And like I said, I thought New England battled back, but it's so hard. Instead of it being 24-27, or 24-24, because you know we should have gotten off the field on that 4th down where the flag was called on Brandon Bolden. You're now sitting. You're up 4 points, 24-20. Because you didn't have that pick 6 on Mac Jones. Like, I hate to blame that on Mac, but that play right there is so crucial. Like, that's pretty much a 14-point swing because say you go down and score, or even if you get a field goal, and who knows if they would have, but you come out first drive, you pretty much just got gut punched. You know, you're on the road, you get gut punched. Your defense shows pretty much no fight as they go all the way down the field, score a touchdown, and then you give up a pick six right there, and you're down 14-0 in Miami, where you've had consistent struggles. And it was just, I felt like that point right there was kind of where I looked at it and I'm like, gosh, this is another one of those games where it's probably so early that we could fight back, but with how this team's been playing, we're not going to be able to dig ourselves out of this hole.
Yeah, and I last two comments that I want to touch on this, and then I don't want to spend too much time on the officiating, but this was just another. I mean, it's funny that we can talk about 14 different comments about missed calls by the officials because there were so many this game. Like this one, they can't even spot the ball right on that 4th and 1. They didn't spot the ball right. They said, all right, we're going to spot the ball 6 inches further. And they moved the ball sideways and like 1 or 2 inches forward. It's like, what are you doing? Like you say you're going to do something, do it. Like you said 6 inches forward, move it 6 inches forward. And that still would have been shorter than the actual line looked like where Kendrick Bourne was. So they reviewed it. They still didn't spot the ball right. They still gave Miami the favorable spot on that one. And then I agree here. The refs didn't make it easier on us, but they weren't the reason we lost. I don't think they are either, but it's frustrating. All the 50-50 calls go to the other team, and some of the blatantly obvious ones they just got wrong, and it's killed the Patriots. I mean, we didn't get any of those blatantly obvious ones called in our favor. Like they didn't miss a big call like that gave us big momentum or a big swing, and I don't know. It's frustrating. It seems like there's so many occasions where that happens. But moving on from that, yeah, it's the penalties, it's the turnovers. We had 2 key turnovers. We had that fumble by Mac and the pick six by Mac that were just killers. I mean, even that fumble, we were kind of driving, we were getting towards the red zone and we fumbled that ball. And that's a huge killer. I mean, we score a touchdown there or even a field goal. That's momentum. That's points. We're getting closer. We're digging our way out of the hole. And it's just big mistakes and big moments. It's just, that's how this team has been in the past 4 weeks outside of that, obviously that game against the Jaguars, but it's unfortunate. It seems to be a pattern with this team forming over the last month. And you see the frustration a little bit when you watch these post-game interviews with Devin McCourty and Slater and all these guys. It's like they know what they have in the locker room. They know they shouldn't be playing the way they're playing, but they just keep doing it. They keep coming out flat and making stupid mistakes and can't make the big plays when they need to.
Yeah. Was the Miami Miracle a season we won the Super Bowl? Yes, that's the year we beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. So yeah, maybe that's the key. Yeah, we suck in Miami, but if we lose the last game of the year in Miami, we go on to win, but not looking like it this year. But unless you have anything else, do you want to get into the good, bad, and the injured right here? Do you have anything?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, and we'll get into more stuff as we talk about the good, bad, and the injured, but let's hop in with our first good. Do you have someone on your good list?
I have Hunter Henry as my first one. He's been great for this team. He was a great signing. He made a couple big plays. I mean, he made an absolutely phenomenal grab. I mean, Jacoby Myers made a couple of those as well, but Hunter Henry made a phenomenal grab. And he came up big in some big spots this game. No touchdowns, obviously, but 5 catches, 86 yards, average of 17.2 yards per catch. He was great this game. I thought he was one of the bright spots, and he's been pretty consistent overall throughout the year. Before I forget, this comment up here. Mills has been playing good this year. He's so overhated. I agree. He had that one kind of bad pass interference thing in the end zone that didn't go his way. But overall, he's been good on the year. We've talked about it. He's had his ups and downs. He started off a little bit slow, but I don't know why he gets hated on so much. He's not the reason we're losing these football games. He's been pretty solid overall. But yeah, Hunter Henry on the good list. I just wanted to touch on that before I forgot because I already had forgot about it.
Yeah, Hunter Henry, couple great catches, big plays, 6 targets, 5 receptions, 86 yards. Yeah, I agree. I thought that he was great. I'm going to go with Brandon Bolden here. 7 carries, 46 yards. He had a touchdown. He also had 2 catches, 20 yards, and another touchdown right there. So 2 total touchdowns, 66 total yards on the day. I thought this was one of his better games, obviously, with the touchdowns. But he showed some flashes in the running game. That first touchdown, he made a couple guys miss. Cut it back door and was able to outrun him to the pylon and made a couple other good runs. So Brandon Bolden, it's good to see kind of fit that James White role this year. And it was good to see him, especially once Damian Harris kind of went out for a little bit with I couldn't tell what type of injury it was, but he came back. And then Ramondre Stevenson had a little bit of a head injury, came back after halftime though. So it was good to see Brandon Bolden contribute both in the running and the passing game.
Yes, I agree. Brandon Bolden had a great game. Quick bit of semi-breaking news, but not really that breaking. Ian Rappaport, Patriots standout defensive tackle Christian Barmore, who was carted off today, will have an MRI on his knee tomorrow, source said. The initial exams were promising, indicating no major injury. As we've seen, the MRI could tell a different story, but at first glance, there is some good news. So I still doubt he makes it back for the playoffs unless they make a huge run to the Super Bowl. But some, at least, initial good news on that front. You never like to, even if he's out for the rest of the season, you never like to see your young players with any big major injuries early in their career. That's just unfortunate. So I just wanted to touch on that before we kept going. But Brandon Bolden did have a great game. Finally, on a 3rd and 1, he made a play. He got a touchdown. That was great to see. But he's actually been pretty solid. Made some big plays throughout the year, especially in the screen game and on some passes like that. He had a couple nice plays today and a 2 touchdown game from him. That was good to see. So next on my good list, I had Jacoby Myers. Like I said, a couple big catches. I mean, went up there 50-50 ball to Jacoby Myers. That's not exactly what you want your offense to be predicated on, but I mean, he went up there, he made a play, and then he made another diving catch that was ridiculous. I mean, the guy's been great. 4 catches, 70 yards, no touchdowns, but he was great today. I thought he was another bright spot of this offense.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers, it was a great throw by Mack and an even better catch by Jacoby. And then, yeah, the 50-50 balls that he went up and caught were great. And just Mr. Consistent all year. I'm going to go with, on the defense side of the ball, Jawan Bentley, 17 tackles, 9 of them solos. He had a dropped interception. I thought he could have
maybe 2, actually.
Yeah. 2. I think
2.
The second one was harder, but the first one,
yeah.
I thought he definitely
right
could have had. And, maybe taking it to the house, but he drops that one right there. But 17 tackles, 9 of them solos. I mean, those are absurd numbers. And I don't think he had like a crazy loud game. Like, people probably wouldn't know that he had 17 total tackles right there, but with how they were running the ball, and it sucks that he had 17 tackles and they rushed for 195. But that's kind of a tribute to them running the ball so much and being so effective that he's playing a linebacker and he's a physical dude. He's able to get in on some tackles, but 9 solo tackles is also promising too. We've, been pretty high on him all year and his athleticism that he's shown since he's supposedly lost weight. So Jawan Bentley, probably one of the few on the defensive side for me.
Yeah, I thought he had a solid game. Stepped up and filled the shoes of Hightower a little bit there in his absence. I still think that might be a part of the reason we struggled against the run was Hightower was missing and also Kyle Duggar was missing, and they're both kind of a big part of this run stopping ability of this defense. But I honestly didn't have any more standout good players. I thought Van Noy made a couple nice plays. He had a nice sack, but I also thought he blew it setting the edge on a couple plays and let Tua escape. And so I wouldn't necessarily put him on there. McCourty dropped a pick. I thought Damian Harris was pretty solid overall. He only averaged 3.4 yards per carry, but he had a touchdown and he was a factor in the passing game. I think he's kind of started to improve in that aspect of this game. He's made some plays out of the backfield in the passing game. So I thought he had a decent day. I didn't think it was spectacular by any means, but pretty much any time Damian Harris got the ball, especially later in the game, it felt like he was getting 5 to 10 yards. And same with Ramondre late in that football game. I think our running game kind of stepped up a little bit late, but I'd throw those guys on, I guess, as honorable mentions maybe, but I wouldn't necessarily put them on the good list. You got any other actual good ones?
No, it's tough. I mean, I guess if you want to go into actual stats and stuff, 3 for 4 in the red zone. I mean, that should be good enough to win you a game, but like we mentioned, you get in a hole early. You can't really overcome it, but 3 for 4, that's a lot better than what we were 1 for 4 last game against Miami. You improve on that and you're punching in at 75% rate. You should win on that. So that sucks to see that you're 75% touchdown in the red zones this game and you still figure out a way to lose. So that would probably be my only good, but when you lose, it's not really a good either.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this is funny as well. Seems like we do way worse versus no-name running backs than we do versus big names. It's every time. I mean, it's like clockwork. Anytime there's a no-name running back, especially on the Dolphins, they just like to torch us for absolutely no reason. It's frustrating. But I guess maybe that's because when the big-name running backs, they like to pay attention to them, and maybe they didn't feel the same way with these Miami backs. I mean, Miami's running game is not good. That's what's so concerning. Their offensive line sucks. Their running game is not good. and they just continue to kill us all day. Their offense is so frustrating. I mean, it is RPO after RPO after RPO. Tua gets the ball out of his hands in 1 second because they don't trust him to hold the ball any longer than that because he's garbage. And they just quick slant, 3-yard pass to Jalen Waddle over and over again, and then hand the ball off once in a while. And they just got 5 yards per carry on this. It was ridiculous. It was a frustrating game defensively. It seems like, I mean, our pass rush wasn't good enough. We couldn't contain Tua even when he did hold the ball a little bit, but it seems like he's getting the ball out of his hands in 2 seconds and just throwing it to somebody and they're open because they get some playmakers. And it seems like that's what they want to do with Mac at some points of the games is just get the ball out of his hands quickly into the playmakers' hands, but we don't have as many big playmakers as the Dolphins. I mean, Jalen Waddle's a stud. That dude is going to be a problem for a long time. And it's frustrating seeing them. It's like this. It's like the same play. It looks like the same play over and over again because they're just running RPO, and it's either handoff or quick slant for 3 yards, and they run for yards after the catch, and they just keep chipping down the field, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, that's what the RPO offense is predicated on, is getting it in your playmakers. I mean, Alabama runs it. A lot of teams in college football run it. They just say, hey, our guys are better than yours. They let them get in space, and they make guys miss, and they chip away with you at little running game and put you in binds as a defense. So it's a frustrating offense to have to defend, but it has its limitations too. We saw when they get in second and third and longs, they're horrible. Yeah. And Tua only threw for 109 yards today. I mean, he's not like, for me, if I'm a Dolphins fan, he's not the guy I want to build my organization around. I don't know how, if you want to continue to be mediocre, I guess, but I feel like you can't consistently win with the RPO game in the NFL. In college, you definitely can, but in the NFL, you can't, because you're not going to always have better receivers and playmakers on the outside. So I don't think that RPO game and Tua is the answer, but it seemed to beat us today. So, tip your hat to them and, get ready to beat it next year, because if Tua's the guy, that's exactly what they're going to do next year. As long as he's back there, that's what they're going to do, because that's what he did at Alabama.
Yeah, and it seemed like a lot more of what we struggle with. It's frustrating. The first game against Miami, first drive, they drove down the field like it was nothing. And then first drive out of halftime, they drove down the field like it was nothing. And they did the same thing their first drive in the first and second half today. I don't know what it is about maybe they have a game script coming out of the half or starting the game that just seems to work, but you know what they're going to do. I mean, it's the same shit every game with the Dolphins. That's what they do. They just RPO after RPO with Tua because he's limited with his arm and his ability to make plays in some aspects. He's not the guy. And we've seen that at this point. Yeah. If you want an offense that can run functionally, if you have great playmakers and they make tremendous plays and you never get in third and long and you never get behind, okay, great. I mean, that's great. Like, whatever. You're not going to win Super Bowls like that. I can tell you that. It's just how it is. So, but it is frustrating to see us continually struggle against a team that seems like they have a ton of talent on defense. Their defense is great. They have a lot of talent on their offense at the playmaker position, but even that, their offense isn't that good. Their offensive line sucks. Tua sucks. Jalen Waddle's good. Devontae Parker's good. And they got Mike Gesicki, who's also good. And Mac Hollins always seems to make stupid plays out of nowhere for no reason. And that's frustrating. But I didn't feel like this was an offense that we really should struggle with. I mean, he seemed to continue to do that over and over again.
Yeah, I was pulling this up because I saw this earlier this week, but where is it? Oh, right here. Liam Eichenberg and Jesse Davis are both in the top 5 of pressures allowed all season in the whole O-line. And that's, that's both their starting tackles right there. You got 59 for Eichenberg and you got 57 for Jesse Davis. So, yeah, I mean, their offensive line can't hold up in the passing game, but they can hold up in that RPO game where, they can go down and run block. And then if it's a pass, they just throw it really short and you don't get an offensive lineman downfield penalty. They can make your guys miss. So, yeah, their offensive line struggles. And that's the thing, is in the NFL with the salary cap, it's not like college football. You can't just continue and go out and sign 4- and 5-star receivers because everyone wants to come to your school and continue to win national championships. If you're going to overpay for 3 or 4 great receivers, you're going to have to give up the offensive line. You're going to have to give up the defense. So if you want to continue to run that RPO game, I agree. I don't think that you're going to be able to find success to win a Super Bowl with that RPO game and with Tua back there. if that's the route they want to go. But it's frustrating that, we have our struggles with it, because we had our struggles with it both games this year. And it seemed like it was only for a certain amount of drives, because I thought our defense played decent in the middle parts of the game and at times, but there were the big drives, coming into the game, coming out of half, and the one we need to get off the field, we just can't make those plays. So,
No, I agree with you. I know this video quality is awful, but Judon just responded to it on Twitter, so I had to show this. This is that third down play where Tua scrambles to basically win the game. Watch Matt Judon right here. Watch this offensive lineman for the Dolphins, and tell me what you guys think about this. Tell me if you think this is a hold or not. We'll just let this play for a second. That looks pretty clean, doesn't it? Right there.
Yeah, that's pretty clean right there.
I mean, if he doesn't stranglehold him, I mean, look at this. This is ridiculous. Like, is this a wrestling move? He's choking him? He's literally choking him out as he's trying to get to Tua.
That's a choke slam.
It's ridiculous. That's a key play, key situation. You can't miss that call if you're an official. It's blatantly obvious. He never gets it called against him, especially in key spots. I don't understand. I mean, you see other pass rushers getting holding calls for somebody like flicking them, and it's Judon gets strangled and gets a chokehold on him. The lineman basically could jump on his back and drag him to the ground like that, and it's just not getting called. And if you would have that play, Judon guarantee would have sacked Tua. That's his blind side. He wouldn't have seen it. And the only reason that he didn't get that sack and we didn't get the ball back down 3 is because he was literally strangling Matthew Judon. So it's calls like that that's frustrating. And I mean, it's pretty blatantly obvious there. I don't know how they miss that continuously, but it's frustrating. It's every play with Judon. I don't understand. I'm going to throw up. I am as well. I mean, I saw that live, and that was one of the ones I was referring to. It's like, it's just every key play. It's like Judon. Yes, he hasn't been as great creating pressures lately, but he's still getting held on damn near every key play that he's out there, every third down. They're not letting Judon get to the quarterback, and it's like they're letting the offensive lineman do whatever they want. It's like, hey, you want to stop Judon? Go ahead, choke him out, kick him, stomp on him, do whatever you got to do to stop that guy, and we're gonna look the other way. It's frustrating. It's a big spot. Judon could have made a big sack there, got the Patriots the ball back with a chance to win the game. Much different feeling heading into next week if they come back from that. It's like, oh, hey, even though we played crappy, we toughed it out. We were mentally tough. We came back. We grinded it out, and we got the win. And it's just stuff like that. It's just frustrating. It feels like it's been all year.
Yeah, it's in big key plays like that. Like,
yeah.
And if he was having, these penalties thrown, then yeah, we'd be able to say, oh, well, his pressure numbers are down, but it's pretty much a sack because but the officiating crew not throwing the flags,
do anything about it.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's because he doesn't smash helmets off QB's head. Yes, that's very true. You got to be like Myles Garrett, rip it off, and this is it.
Yes, it's because the refs love mac and cheese, and they were disrespected by his comments. He should have never said that. Next year and this year in the offseason, he'd just say, "Hey, by the way, I actually love mac and cheese. I was just trolling," and he'll get those calls next year. Guaranteed.
He got a newfound love for mac and cheese, and all
exactly.
Of a sudden,
It's like I was having the wrong recipe. Now it's delicious. It's great now, but it's frustrating though. Like in all seriousness, it's just every big play. It seems like that happens to Matt Judon, and it's tough. The Bengals O-line, they're decent. They're better than I think people expected them to be. That's why so many people wanted them to draft Penei Sewell. But I think they've been solid enough this year. Their run game has been a factor. Joe Mixon's good. They've held up enough to where they can protect Burrow long enough to get the ball into the playmaker's hands and still have an effective run game. So I think Miami's offensive line is probably worse because they're one of the worst in the league. By a lot of advanced metrics, they are the worst in the league. So the Bengals are better, I would say, but it's still not a great offensive line. It's certainly not in the top half of the league, I would say.
Yeah, they're about middle of the pack. They've allowed the 17th most pressures on the year. They are the let's see. They are the 23rd highest graded offensive line on PFF compared to Miami. I mean, Miami has given up the most pressures in the NFL at 227. Cincinnati's only given up 160. I just had this pulled up now. 166. So, obviously significantly better. I still think that, obviously the loss of Barmore, if he's not playing, is huge, but Judon, he should still be able to eat. Hopefully Uche, guys like that. Like, we should be able to get pressure if that's who we do play. And then we all know about Buffalo's offensive line. So they're going to be better than Miami's, but with the pressure we've been generating lately, I don't know if that really matters, which sucks. So
yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, let's get into let's see. It seems like the Pats struggle against semi-mobile quarterbacks, so maybe they'll do good against Burrow.
Always have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that that's kind of one of the things that we're talking about is that linebackers are so old and their strength is not to chase down a Josh Allen, even a Tua. Tua is not mobile compared to Josh Allen, but he can make plays with his feet. And I think that the age of our defensive front, like the front seven, especially linebackers, is kind of hurting because other than Jamie Collins, we don't really feel like we can play a spy on a quarterback. So, I mean, getting younger right there and a little bit more athletic, other than Hightower, Van Noy, guys like that, I think that will help with, them being able to, quarterbacks being able to scramble. So that's another thing that I think we need to address in the offseason. But let's get into the bad. Do you have anyone on your bad list? Oh, yeah. Yep. You got something?
Real quick. One guy who's had some success doing that the past couple weeks, I'd just say, Uche's been good at chasing down quarterbacks and making some plays, but you can't play him out there consistently enough to trust him because he's not great at setting the edge. When you need a guy to pin his ears back, go get the passer, he's great. I mean, he can do that, and then he can tackle guys from behind, chase them down, whatever. He's got good speed, but he also isn't sound in his rush lanes necessarily to where if you need to contain a quarterback like that. So it's tough. The Pats have struggled with that forever. I mean, a lot of the mobile guys is the guys that have killed the Pats forever because when you get a pocket quarterback, you can put pressure on him from the inside, from the outside. You don't have to worry about him going anywhere. And the Patriots just feast on that because that's sound fundamental football is quarterback drops back. He's in the pocket. This is like the X's and O's. This is what you do. But when the game travels outside of the X's and O's and outside of what Belichick has known for years and what this defense and how they coach it's kind of playmakers making plays at that point. And that's not as much. That's where the Patriots maybe aren't as caught up as some of the rest of the league in that aspect, is just being able to stop those guys like that who just make plays. It's hard to contain. And there's not really necessarily a game script for it because you never know what they're going to do. They're just playmakers who can run with their legs, make plays with their arms, and it's tough to stop. So we can move on to the bad, but my first guy I had on my first thing I had on that list is obvious. I mean, we talked about it. Penalties. We had 78 yards of penalties. They had 33. So penalties is a key one, and turnovers. Just the two main things that just really change the game. That's basically it. You take away I guess we technically had 3 turnovers with the fumble at the last play of the game, but you take away those 2 turnovers mid-game and you take away some of those penalties, this game's completely different. And it's 2 huge momentum swings, and that's main reason why we lost this game.
Yeah, penalties, untimely penalties too is the thing, is when they happen is killer. I'm going to go with rushing defense, 195 yards to a team that's second to last in the NFL in rushing yards per game at a little bit over 89 yards. That's horrible. You let Duke Johnson go for 117, Lindsey for 40, Tua scrambles for 38 yards. I mean, that's been kind of the thing. New England's allowing 140 yards rushing against them per game the last 3 games, and that's coming against Buffalo, who's not very willing to run the ball. Miami, who hasn't ran the ball, they're, like I said, they're 31st in the league in rushing yards per game, and then Jacksonville. So that's a concerning stat you're seeing going into the playoffs against, Cincinnati, who I think has a better running game than all of those teams combined. You got to, figure some way out to stop a Joe Mixon.
For sure. And I'll touch on another couple things here real quick too, is one thing we already talked about was making big plays when they counted, and defense couldn't do it. Offense did it at some points, but defense, third down, big plays. This defense had probably 4 or 5 key opportunities to make a third down stop to change the game, and they couldn't do it. They just couldn't. It couldn't make the stops, and it's frustrating. They made a couple once in a while that ended up helping us get back into the game, but in all the key moments where it's just like, okay, this is a gotta have it. We either make the stop or we go home, and we had to go home. That was basically it. And I agree with Roondog here. The offensive line had a tough game. Both sides of the football, the line of scrimmage was dominated by the Dolphins all day. The running game had its moments later in the game, like I talked about. Overall, in the first half, it was inconsistent, and just the pressure on Mac all day was just not great. It's hard to play a defense like this. They create pressure in so many unique ways. Up the middle, on the outside, they got some great edge rushers. The rookie Phillips is good. And it was kind of consistently. I get Isaiah Wynn was out, but it was kind of consistently the pocket was closing, and the Dolphins made some big plays on second and third down. It kind of killed some drives for the Patriots that were going pretty well. So those big plays is basically that's what it came down to. The Dolphins made the big plays when they counted, and the Pats didn't, and that's why we're going home with the loss.
Yeah, I guess I probably shouldn't be posting stats anymore because I posted, on Friday about the Patriots O-line, according to PFF, least amount of pressures allowed in the league, 110. No. And I was about ready to make another post too about since Trent Brown's return, weeks 1 through 9, New England had allowed 76 pressures. Since week 10, only 34, best in the NFL, according to PFF. So I'll eat that post. That's on me. I jinxed them. This is probably the worst game I've seen the Patriots O-line play since Trent Brown has returned and since those struggles, shifting the offensive line around, trying so many different combinations, really has been fixed. So it was frustrating to see, this team, their offensive line it is the strong suit of this team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line is what gets it going, whether it's with the run game or the passing game. And they seem to be all up in Mac's face. He only got sacked twice, but there were multiple other times where there was pressure in his face.
Yeah, no, I agree. You got another bad? I got one more.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, and I agree with you. I think that Jalen Mills has been good this year, but untimely penalty. And I thought the PI that's a 50-50 call. Like, I get it. His arms wrapped around him. He was looking for the ball. It's just a tough break. I guess I'm going to have to go with Jalen Mills, and I hate putting him on there because I think that he was good today. I think that drive 1, there were a couple plays where I saw him playing soft coverage, and Waddle was able to run quick speed outs, and they were able to get it to him. And I don't think he necessarily played bad today. He had 3 tackles, 2 of them solos. Obviously, the PI call was huge, but I don't think he was necessarily horrible. But I had him on my bad list just because of the PI, and maybe that's not on him, but it was costly.
Yeah, and I agree. It was kind of a up in the air. Probably could have gone either way. I think you could have argued it should have been a no flag, should have been a flag. Either way, I would have kind of understood. It was frustrating in the moment. Key penalty in the red zone that can put your game on the day down a little bit. So I didn't necessarily think he was bad. I thought he was fine. I thought he didn't make every play, but I didn't think he was like a sore spot. Like, oh my God, that he was horrible today. You know what I mean? So my last thing.
If I'm being honest, I don't think many people were horrible. I think the team was horrible today.
Just everybody was.
Everyone played like
execution.
Everyone played meh, which made it horrible. I don't think there were many horrible performances, and that's the frustrating part. Is like we're not playing horrible. The team is playing horrible, and that's not what you usually see with New England.
And I'd rather have one guy play horrible than the entire team, because if one guy plays bad, you still have a chance. If the whole team plays bad, you don't have a chance. And that's kind of what I think every one of my bads so far has been, a collective group of the team, a group of players like the O-line, D-line, line of scrimmage, all that stuff. And my last one is kind of on that same topic. And it's something that we've seen multiple games, excluding the Jaguars game. Slow starts, killer. You start slow in the playoffs, the season's over. Simple as that. You got to fix it. I don't know how. I don't know if it's coaching. Like I said, I don't know if it's the players. I don't know what needs to happen, but the slow starts need to stop, or the season's going to be over real fast.
Yeah, and it's crazy now. Devin McCourty said it in his post-game press conference, but they asked him if he's ready for the playoffs, if they're ready, and he said, we better be, because it's real now. Choice. Like, honestly, and it sucks to say, and it's hard to put everything behind us, but the last 18 weeks really don't matter now. We got in the playoffs. Honestly, I think that most Patriots fans, if you were to say, hey, you finished 10-7, you don't tell them how you finished 10-7. You don't tell them they go on a 7-game win streak or anything. You just say, you finished 10-7, you get the 5 seed in the wild card. Maybe you get the 6 seed. I think most Patriots fans would have been like, dang, that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. It's the 7-game win streak that threw off our expectations and made us, crazy and thinking that we had this chance at a Super Bowl, and then we kind of got humbled. So, yeah, I agree. It's one game at a time now. You can't look forward to the divisional round. You can't look forward to the AFC Championship game. You look forward to whoever you play, whether it's Buffalo or Cincinnati, and you go game by game. And, honestly, if Bill can get this team right, I'm taking New England to win any game they play because of Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, and the way that this team has played when they're playing their best football.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all kind of agree that you told us that we were going to be where we're at right now. Beginning of the year, we'd all be happy. Seeing the Patriots in the playoffs year one with Mac is huge. And I know we've been a little bit discouraged tonight, but I'm not discouraged about the future. Like let's get that clear. Let's get that straight right now, because Mac is extremely impressive. Let me oh boy, I should have kept that up from earlier. I'll find it while you're talking after this. But Mac's been extremely impressive. The team is got young pieces that they can build around. Christian Barmore, Kyle Duggar. They got a bunch of core guys that are going to be making plays for years to come. And Hunter Henry's a great signing. Kendrick Bourne's been great. Jonnu, I think he'll have a better year next year. He better. I mean, they signed him. They was their first signing. He should be better.
It's going to be hard not to have a better year than this year.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the future is really bright, and having him Mac year one be performing at the level he's performing at is great. It's insane. So I'm happy about the future. The frustrating part is, like you said, that, hey, if you would have just told me, hey, 10-7, we're the 6th seed, we got a chance, I'd be like, great. I think we definitely have a chance. The Patriots, nobody wants to play the Patriots in the playoffs. It's a tough matchup. But the way the season's gone and having this horrible stretch the past 3 games out of the last 4, it's couldn't get much uglier heading into the playoffs. And that's what's frustrating, is this team can play at a very high level, and they're just playing so far below that level right now.
Yeah. And if they get it back up, it might be, a crazy playoff run. But if they continue to play like this, we might be sitting here next week, whether they play on a Saturday or a Sunday, and this might be, the last, game that they were that they were playing it for the 2021 season. So it's a roller coaster of emotions that we've had, from the bye week to now with how they were playing. But it all comes down to this week now, wherever you play, whoever you play, it comes down to what they can do now and, what they can figure out. So I'm excited to see how they play. I'm excited to see how this Chargers Raiders game finishes. It's currently 17-14 Raiders at half. So we're sitting at the 6th seed right now, going to Buffalo. So we'll see how that finishes out. But I'm excited to see how this team, goes out and competes one last time. I don't think, and I've said this before, but if you can't get up for a playoff game on the road because you have to do it, like you can't come out flat on the road in a playoff game, especially if you're playing Buffalo. Like you can't do that. You can't get down. Then they probably don't deserve to win it. So I'm excited to see how these young guys come back and, the veterans too, rally around them and take this, little bit of fuel and put it on a fire and hopefully use it as motivation for the next game in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. It's gonna be fun to watch. They got a shot at least. They're in the dance. They're in the playoffs. We'll kind of see what happens. I'd love to beat the Bills and kind of get payback a little bit for that game that they played so perfect, and it's going to be really hard for them to play a game that sound again. And I mean, Josh Allen still gave us some chances in that game to win. So I can't find this tweet. It was about Mac Jones, his rookie year so far, where he finished at the end of the year. I think he was like 2nd in completion percentage, 2nd in yards, 3rd in yards per game, 5th in QBR. I think that was pretty close to what the actual stats were. I can't find it, but Mac's been great this year. He's had not his best games recently, but he's been good on the year. He's a rookie. He's got a long way to go, and I'm kind of excited to see where he ends up at the end of the day, because we got a window here, 4 or 5 years on his rookie deal. This is just year 1, so it's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be exciting. Going to be fun to watch the rest of this game, see what the Patriots end up playing. I don't really think it matters too much either way. It's going to be a fun game. I think they'll be more ready excitement-wise. And, I mean, if they come out flat, like you said, if you can't get up for a game, especially if it's divisional in Buffalo, that'll probably be the Monday night game. I think there was a rumor about that if they do play Buffalo. If you can't get up for a Monday night game in the playoffs, wild card weekend against a division rival, you should probably just step off the field now and not even go to the game. You know what I mean? That's too easy to get hyped up for. You got to be ready. And I am a little more concerned about them coming out flat against the Bengals than the Bills, but I'd rather see the Bengals. Especially if we lose, I'd much rather lose to the Bengals than the Bills. That's just, Bills fans are too much of a pain in the ass to deal with, getting knocked out by them. So I definitely don't want to see that.
Yep, I agree. I prefer Cincinnati, but like you said early, if we do beat Buffalo, that would be, I mean, unless we go on and win the Super Bowl, that might be the highlight of the year, is knocking
absolutely.
Buffalo.
Even if you lose, you lose after Buffalo, it doesn't matter. If you knock out Buffalo year one of the Mac Jones era, the rebuild, whatever, one full year, this is the second season without Tom Brady. You knock out the Bills after them. Oh my, they were talking so much crap after they beat us. Oh, we want to see you guys in the playoffs. We're going to smack you guys. I hope it happens. I don't love it. I do think that we will lose to Buffalo if we face them again, but you love the idea of, if we beat them, that's going to be really exciting for Pats fans. For
sure. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back probably Wednesday, and we'll probably know the game time and who we're playing by then for sure, whether it's Sunday, Monday, or Saturday night. So make sure you check both mine and Cole's Instagrams for posts about that and updates so you can catch us live. But that's it for me. You got anything, Cole?
No, just check the pages. I'm sure we'll both have updates on Barmore's situation and Isaiah Wayne over the next few days. Keep an eye on that. Hopefully they both somehow are able to play in this playoff game. I think Barmore's definitely going to be out for the rest of the year, which stinks, but maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe he'll be all right. Maybe it was just a painful thing like Adrian Phillips was. You know, that we got pretty lucky on that. So maybe we'll see that. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Thanks for the comments and all that stuff. Stinks that it was a tough game, tough loss, but they got a chance. They're in the playoffs. Miami can't say the same thing. So like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we will see you guys Monday or Wednesday.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
7-year run to Cincinnati.